If I told you that there was an app on your iPhone or your iPad that can capture your song ideas, determine the chords and tempo, add drums and bass, and then export them to GarageBand and is 100% free, you'd be pretty interested, yeah? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you all about Music Memos, which is an app that does all of that and even more. Let's go. Hi, my name is Pete, and this is Studio Live Today, where I help you create, record, and release your best music. And we are talking music creation today because the Music Memos app is one of my favorite ways to capture my song ideas, whether it's on guitar, piano, or even my own voice. It works really well. So let's dive in now to the iPad and take a look. Oh, and a quick pro tip before we get started. If you've got an iRig or any other audio interface with a guitar input, you can use that to record in Music Memos. Today, we're just using the onboard mic, but you're going to get even better quality from one of these. And speaking of pro tips, if you watch to the end of the video, I've got one more pro tip about using Music Memos, which you won't want to miss. The first thing we need to do is download Music Memos. So I've gone here to the App Store, I've searched Music Memos, and here it is. If you haven't got it already, just hit the Get button and download it. And then once it's downloaded, you just tap on Open, and here we are in Music Memos, ready to record our first idea. Now, I'm using an iPad here, but if you're using an iPhone, it will look exactly the same, except it will be in portrait mode. So all of the buttons and all of the features work the same way. You'll just be looking at it the other way around. Okay, I have my guitar here. Let's get started by recording a simple song idea into Music Memos so that we can show you the power of this very cool app. So I'm simply going to hit the big record button in the middle and then play my guitar part, and then we'll take a look at what we can do. Our idea has now been recorded, so down the bottom here you can see the waveform showing our song idea. To play it back, we just hit play. Now here's where things get very cool. To quickly add some bass and some drums, we can tap on these two buttons at the bottom here. So let's tap on bass and hit play. And then we can add in some drums by tapping on the drum button. So very quickly we can get our idea down, we can throw drums and bass on it, and we can hear what it's going to start sounding like as a real song. But this is just scratching the surface. There is so much more we can do with Music Memos, which we're going to dive into right now. Before we jump into those cool editing functions here in Music Memos, let's have a look around the interface. So in the top left here, you might have noticed this auto button. So with the auto button turned on, you can see there that it's monitoring my audio now. And as soon as it detects that I'm actually playing a song, I'm singing, I'm playing guitar, I'm playing piano for an extended period, it will record. So it is recording now, it'll backdate that recording, and then when you get to the end, it'll automatically turn it off. Now I prefer to use manual mode where I just hit record, but you can experiment with auto if you like. On the top right side here, we have a tuner. So this is a chromatic tuner that we can tune our guitar if we play a note. You can see there how close we are to in tune. So my E is quite in tune. If you're in the blue zone there, it's in tune. Anything red, you're out of tune. To turn off our guitar tuner, we tap the tuner again. So that's another little handy function here in Music Memos. And finally, at the top here is our inbox. So this is our ideas inbox where all of our ideas are stored. And yes, mine are called my idea number 1, 2, 3, etc., as most people tend to. So here we can just tap through to go and look at all of our different ideas. We can play them directly from here, or to go into detail mode, which is what we're going to look at now, we just tap anywhere on this waveform and we're opened up into the detail mode, which is where we're going to do most of our work here in Music Memos. Let's quickly have a look at some of the options that we have in the settings for Music Memos. So I've gone out of Music Memos and into the settings app here on my iPad. I'm going to scroll down and tap on Music Memos. Now there's two things I can adjust here. One is the storage location. So if I want the files to be stored on my iPad or on my iPhone, I will turn iCloud off. If I tap that on, they're going to be stored on my iCloud drive, meaning that they will sync across all of my iOS devices. If you've got an iPad and an iPhone, it could be a convenient way to have your ideas with you wherever you go. The other thing that we can change here is our display. So if we tap on display here, this shows where the chords will be displayed. So what I had selected before is this one here. So it was displaying in the details section, the library section, and during the actual capture. But if you're distracted by that, you can drop it down and have it in your details and library, or just your details only. So there's a couple of settings that can just help you get up and running here in Music Memos. Back into Music Memos, we're going to tap on the waveform, and here we are back in our song idea. Now across the top there are 5 different icons here, and these are the 5 different functions that we can perform here in Music Memos. So let's go through those one by one. Our first icon here, this 4/4 time icon, is our edit time option. So in edit time, we can adjust the tempo and we can adjust the time signature and downbeat. So let's go through those now. The tempo here, it predetermined that this was at 132 BPM, but if it didn't get that right, so if I wanted that to be half or double that speed, I can actually tap on here. So I can go to half speed and I can go to double speed, and that will actually change where those bar markers are. But it's actually done a good job, so I'm going to leave it at regular for 132. The other thing to keep in mind here is that Music Memos is pretty clever. It actually uses stretch time to actually mark up your song. So if you slow down or speed up, it is going to slow down or speed up your song, and we'll show you more about that later. But don't worry if you're not perfectly in time, you're going to be able to get back in time using this particular function. Our time signature has defaulted to 4/4 time, but we can adjust this to either 3/4 or 6/8 time if it hasn't detected that correctly. We're going to leave it as 4/4 time in this case, but if you do find that you're recording in a different time signature, you can just come in here and adjust it using that function. And finally, our downbeat. So at the moment it's saying it's +0, which means that it hasn't adjusted this at all. But what I want to do is play my track and see if it's actually starting on the right beat and if we need to adjust this downbeat. So let's hit play. And you can hear there that it is way off. So what we can actually do is we can adjust this by pressing on these arrows. We're going to go to the right, in fact, and we're going to go across here. And there you go. It's actually now lined that up. So you can see there where our bar markers are. It has actually got that in the right place now. If we hit play now, so that is much better. We've got it in time now. So with our drums and our bass, they're going to sit nicely because we've got it in time with the right rhythm. Now let's take a look at our next function here, which is our edit chords mode. So we'll tap on this that says the C-7 chord, and here we are in our chords function. So you'll see here that Music Memos has laid out each section, and every time it detects a chord change, it creates a new section here. So we can tap on these and we can actually see which chord that it has actually determined it thinks we're playing. Now it's done a pretty good job here on this song, but if there was a chord that we did want to change, all we need to do is tap on that section that we have here, and then you'll see here it's got suggested chords. So it determines what it thinks the chord is, and then it gives you a bunch of other suggestions of what that chord should be. If it's none of those, we can tap the custom button here, and then we can dial in whatever chord we want here. To go back to our suggested chords, we just tap on the suggestions button. The other option we have here is to have no chord at all. So if we tap that, our chord disappears, and we can even turn no band on, which means that it won't play along with our drums and our bass at that same time. Now you might notice here that it has detected an E minor chord here. Now it wasn't actually an E minor chord, it was just a variation of the D chord that I was playing, but no problem here. To get rid of this, the easiest way is to grab the chord section before that, grab the end handle and just drag it across like that, and then we can do the same with this D here. We grab it, we grab the start handle and just drag it across like that. So now it's going to be a D chord throughout this whole section and then turn into our G chord, which is exactly what it did. Now you'll notice that the timing here is slightly before the actual bar markers for a lot of these chords. Now that's just a natural thing that happens when you're playing an acoustic jamming sort of riff like this. Sometimes you sort of shift to the chord just before the start. So we can leave it at that and our bass will actually follow that. But if we wanted to actually correct that, no problem at all. All we need to do is do this same thing again. So we're going to grab this D chord and we're going to grab the end and shift it across. We can do the same with our G chord and we can shift it across. So we can do this to clean up our chords if we wanted them to be right on the grid. So for this example, I'll just do this quickly so that we can see exactly how this is going to sound when we've lined everything up. Finally, you'll notice that at the bottom left here, we've got a little icon here, which is our loop playback icon. So with one particular section selected, if we tap on that loop playback icon, it's going to keep playing that until we tap it again to stop it. So that's good if you just want to hear that chord, or you want to grab your guitar and play along and think, what chord was I actually playing? What should I adjust it to? You can do that and make sure that you get your chords dialed in correctly. So there you go. It does a pretty good job of getting the chords right, and you can experiment around, and it will depend on how complicated you play, how clearly you're playing, and what you're using to actually record into Music Memos. Our next icon here is our trim function. So let's tap on this third icon along, and here we can trim our ID. Now, this is a very simple function, but it's very important because we've probably noticed already that we've got a heap of space here before and after this track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the front. I'm going to leave one bar in front. I always like to have one bar lead in, but I'm going to trim the end of this because we don't need this. This was actually me talking at the end of that. So I'm going to trim all of that out, and I'll trim all the way back to here. So what we can do now is tap on the trim button at the bottom here, and we can save it as a new idea. And this is going to trim it down, and there you go. It's looking nice and neat and tidy and ready for us to use. Our fourth icon along the top here is our note icon, which is basically where they put things that they couldn't put anywhere else. And this is where we can adjust our capo or our capo, however you like to say that, and our tuning. So if we tap firstly on the capo, we can actually tell Music Memos that we're using a capo. So if we had that on our third fret here, for instance, and you were playing with that, and if you're not sure what a capo is, it's something that covers up the whole fret of a guitar so that it actually shifts the pitch up. So if you're playing your guitar at a higher pitch, you can tell it that here, and it will adjust the chords. It will listen out for those chords in that position, but we weren't using one, so we're going to leave it as none. The other thing we can do here is adjust tuning. So I was using a standard E, A, D, G, B, E tuning, but if we were using a drop D or something like a dadgad or some other sort of cool open string tuning, we can actually adjust it here, and we can tell it, even each individual string, what we've got that tuned to. So there's a lot of complex functions that we have in here. If you're going to use different tunings, use a capo, you can still use Music Memos, and it'll still do a good job of determining your chords. And our fifth and final option is the share button, where we can share this to our files, we can email it, we can even export it into GarageBand. And I'm going to show you how to do these in a bit of detail right at the end. So hold off on that one for now, because we're going to come back and share this project at the end once it's ready to share. Some final functions here on our main screen. In the bottom left, we have our tag. So we can tap on tag, and we can tag it with any of these. So if we say this is acoustic and chords, we can do that. Or if we wanted to add in our own tag, I'll just put my name there, we can do that. So you can actually add in tags here, and then when you go to search, you can search via these tags. So if you've got all of your acoustic ideas or all your chorus ideas, you can search for chorus and then find all of those at once. And finally, in the bottom right, we have our delete button. So we tap that, we can delete this idea if we're not happy with how things are going. Now, at the start of the video, I showed you how we can add in our bass and add in our drums, and we can access those here on our details screen too, but we can do something else here, which is very cool. If we hold down on these buttons, we go into our smart instrument options. So we have our bass, and at the top here, we can tap to go to our drums, so we can actually dial in some more precise settings and get a more customized sound. So let's show you how we do that now. Now, if you've used GarageBand and you've used the smart instruments there, you'll be familiar with these. But what we have here is we have a matrix where we can select whether we want it to be simple and quiet all the way up to loud and complex. So the same with our drums, we can have a simple quiet beat all the way up to a loud complex beat. We'll go back to our bass now. We also have an electric bass or an upright bass that we can choose from, which will give us a different type of bass depending whether we're going for a low key kind of mellow jazz song or we're going for something more rocky. We can adjust that there. The same with our drums here. We can either have a modern kit or a vintage kit. And over on the right here, we can adjust between having our hi-hat, using a ride cymbal, and using our tom drum. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back in and I'm going to play back and adjust these, and you'll be able to listen and hear the different sounds we can get out of our drums and our bass. So I've done some experimenting and I've dialed in my bass to be here loud and in the middle of the road there, and my drums are going to be on my right cymbal using a vintage kit, and now my song sounds like this. So I think that's sounding pretty cool, and how cool are these features here using the advanced functions we have with your bass and your drums. So we're pretty much done here. We're going to tap the little down arrow here, and now we're going to go back to Ideas by tapping in the top left corner, and then here we are back in our Ideas browser. Now I just wanted to show you a few of the features and functions we have from within the browser. Firstly, to play our idea, we can simply hit the play button. And pause to stop. We can enable or disable our drums and our bass right here from within the browser if we want to take a listen to what the original song sounded like without bass and drums. We can delete our idea by tapping the delete button here on the right and tapping delete if we wanted to get rid of it. We can rate our idea. So up in the top right here, we can tap on these little stars and we can say, yeah, I think this is about a 4-star song, and then tap out. And this way we can at a glance see which ideas we think have got potential and which ones may be left on the shelf for a while. And we can use our search box to search for ideas. So if you've named your ideas better than I have, you can search by that, or we can search using these tags we talked about before. So if we type in chords here, then these two actually have the chords attached as a tag. So we can go back into our song here and tap on that one, and then we're back into that idea. Now that we're happy with how this song is coming together, let's tap on the waveform again and let's show these share options. So we'll go to the 5th icon on the right here and tap on the little share button here. Now this should look familiar if you've used any sort of iOS apps, because here we can share to devices. We can use AirDrop, we can share via message, messenger, mail, any of these sort of apps that support audio. We can share that audio, or we can actually save it out to our files. So let's show that first. We're going to tap on save to files, and here we have our 3 different saving options. We can save a mix down, which is the idea with those drums and basses mixed in. We can do an audio file, which is just the idea without the drum and bass, or we can export to GarageBand, which is something that I'm going to do, but I'm going to show you that in a more direct way in a moment. So let's just say we wanted this mix down. We tap on mix down there. We've now got the option to select either a lossless quality, so Apple lossless, or an uncompressed AIF. We don't have a WAV file in Music Memos for whatever reason, or we can do a compressed M4A file. So let's just use an M4A file for now. We're going to tap on next, and it's going to prepare to save the file. It's going to export it, and then here we go. We can save it wherever we want. So I can save it in my GarageBand folder. I can save it on my iCloud drive right here on my iPad in GarageBand. So let's just do that and hit add, and there you go. It's saved a copy of just that audio file into my Files app. However, the cooler way to export is to export directly to GarageBand. So let's do that now. We're going to tap on the top right here on our share option. We're going to scroll across here to GarageBand, and then we're going to tap on the GarageBand icon. Now, what it's going to do is it's going to open up GarageBand, and here in the top left, My Idea 14, which I should have renamed, I'm going to tap on this one now, and here we are in GarageBand, and here we've got our 3 different tracks. So we'll slide out here and unmute these. If we go to the start and hit play, so there's our idea, and the cool thing is that our drums are an auto drummer, so we can adjust and manipulate all of the drum patterns and do whatever we want with that. And our bass is our smart bass, so we can also edit the MIDI notes, and then we can add a bunch more tracks, and we can do whatever we want. We can build out our song using this idea from Music Memos. Now, if you're new to GarageBand and you want some help, you've come to the right place, because I've got a heap of videos and tutorials all about GarageBand. And at the end of this video, I will link to my GarageBand Quick Jam series, where I go through all of the features of GarageBand in little bite-sized tutorials just right for getting started. So watch out for the end of the video and you'll be able to check those out. Now, you may remember that when we were talking about the tempo in Music Memos, I said that it used some flexible time there. Now, we can show that if we go into our spanner icon here, and if we look at the tempo here, you'll notice it says it's automatic. And if we tap on that, we can't change the tempo. So this is probably the biggest limitation that we have here in GarageBand when we send something from Music Memos, because it does a good job of keeping that time in time. Once we set it to GarageBand, we can't then adjust it, which means our song's not going to be really nice and on the grid. However, I did promise you a pro tip, and that is what we are going to finish with here. My pro tip is going to show you how we can get a much more consistent and even performance in Music Memos so that when we export it, it's going to be right on the grid. So let's show that right now. So for this tip, we're actually going to use GarageBand. So I'm here in GarageBand, I'm going to tap on Create Document. Now I'm going to use our drummer to create a metronome to play along to in Music Memos. It's very cool, and here's how you do it. We're going to tap on drummer here. It's going to bring up a default drummer. We've got Logan here playing AM Gold. Now the first thing I need to do is adjust the tempo. So I'll tap in the top right here on the spanner icon. I'm going to go to the tempo and I'm going to dial in our 132 tempo that we were playing to, because that's what I want the tempo of this song to be. I'm now going to tap out of there and tap on the plus button in the top right, because at the moment we've only got 8 bars. We want more than that. I'm going to tap on section A here. Now I'm going to tap and hold and drag up on this number here, and let's just give us 315 bars. Why not? And when we tap out here, we've now got a 315 bar drum loop of Logan playing this. Now we can customize this, we can come in here to our presets, we can change it all up, but I'm pretty happy with that for now, so I'm going to use that. Let's now jump back over to Music Memos and set up a new recording ready to go. So we're back in Music Memos, we've got our new recording ready to go, I've got my guitar. Now all we need to actually do is go back to GarageBand, we're going to double tap or swipe if you're on a newer device, go to GarageBand here, we can play these drums now, then go back to Music Memos and play along. Now it's not going to pick up the drum sound because that's internal. As long as you're using headphones, you might get a little bit of bleed through your microphone, but not a whole lot, so it's going to work for that. But the one thing you need to make sure is that you have run in background mode on. So we're going to tap our spanner icon once more, and we're going to go to Advanced, and we're just going to make sure that run in background is on. This will mean that we can switch apps and GarageBand will keep running. Now if you've got any other metronome app on your phone or on your iPad, or even a manual metronome, doesn't matter. Whatever you can use, this method is going to work with that. I just like having the convenience of having GarageBand right here. So we're good to go now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit play in GarageBand, go to Music Memos, hit record, and then record my idea along to these drums. Okay, let's just hit stop and thank Logan for his service. Great job, Logan. If we double tap and come back to Music Memos, here we go. Here's our idea recorded here, and now we know that it's recorded to a very tight 132 BPM rhythm because we've used that metronome. And now if we export it, we can know that we're going to be in time, and we can even then copy that and put this into another track at 132 BPM, and we know that it's going to match up. Now it's your turn. Jump into Music Memos, start capturing your ideas, and let me know how you go. If you've got any questions or comments or your own tips about using it, drop those in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about using GarageBand and iOS to create your music, I've got a heap of videos which are linked in the 2 videos down below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.